audio here real quick. Sorry about the delay, we're about 10 minutes late here. Get my kiddos to bed. Okay. All right. I think we're good to go. We got audio coming through on the monitor, and got Photoshop set up. All right, tonight I'm going to do a portrait, I think. Maybe, oh, I don't want to make the promise that I'm going to do more than one, but why not? If we get time, we can do it. And let's grab our foreground color here. Go a little more saturated. Get a pink color there. And get my reference board lined up here on the other monitor. Okay. I think I could probably saturate this a little bit more, something like that. And jump into these large shapes. I want to go darker with this foreground, the lighter tone here, and maybe even less saturated. I want to be careful with the face that I'm not, I don't want to go too gray from the start. Try to get a little bit of efficiency with the stroke economy here. And let's see. Part of the challenge here is going to be lining up our features. When you do that block in, you get yourself close, and it's nice to be able to see the image start to come together as the shapes relate, and that's what blocking is really nice for that. You start to see those relationships quickly. However, you don't want to be married to the blocking. You got to start to figure out if the relationships are, in fact, correct. And in this case, I'm giving myself a bit of a challenge here because my reference, I'll just bring it over. My reference has this camouflage face paint going on. So you don't have as many of the light and shadow cues, and I can already see. The closer I get these together, you can see, okay, quite a few gestural changes that need to happen as far as the tilt of the head and so forth. But it'll be a fun challenge tonight. I always find it interesting to get the hairline especially on women. Like, you don't want to have too much of a receding hairline, but then if you get it too kind of squared off, it looks can almost look too masculine, you know. So you don't want features to be too too hard edged or too soft that they lose their form. All right, so pretty soon here I'm gonna start making some comparisons on the location of these reference points. We want to get it blocked in well enough here. Alright, so now I'm going to start erasing away, because I can see there's way too much going on here on this eye. And just the shape of that eye socket there should, you know, the eye should come in, or the socket should come in here, and then the eye protrude a little bit there. And you'll kind of get a different read on it depending on the angle, tilt of the head. So you want to get that right. It can be tricky to, you know, the temptation is to want to show that eye in the background there. And in this case, there's actually just not that much. You know, there's just a little bit here, barely catching it. So I'm gonna even knock that back even further. Start, even though I'm using the same tone here as the skin, I'll kind of come back to this later, but I'll start bringing out, actually, you know what, I'm going to change that now, because if I don't, it's really bother me. So we can change that tone and start to bring some dimensionality to the hair. And the hair, we're just trying to handle it as these big shapes. So this portion up here, there's a piece that comes in the side here. There's another kind of fold that comes in above the ear right there, and then another one that comes up and behind the ear like that. So just working the larger masses of the hair. And this is a pretty good brush for this. This is a fairly good all-purpose brush. But if you zoom in here, it's got a texture to it that just gives a nice little directionality to those hair strands. Even though that was just one stroke there, you know, you get all that texture. Okay, so now I'm going to look at the placement of the eye, so the angle. So I'm just going to do a new layer over top here. And I'll just grab kind of a markup color, and I'm looking at my reference, and the reference is a little bit more like this angle. So ear, eye, eyebrows here, and then there's this arc here for the comes down into the lips. And the nose comes up here, like this. Bridge those over. Move that eye back a little bit there. So this, I'm just looking over at my reference and trying to get more of that gesture, the angle, the tilt of the head. Make sure that is correct. The lip. Let's get the filter on here. Unfortunately, this kind of has the opposite effect. I'm like drawing in the shadow, but it's actually, lit there. So we'll draw in the light then down here, if that makes it easier to see. Okay, now I'm going to move this over so you don't quite have that same tilt there going on. All right. So I'm going to leave this here as a reference. Start playing with our block in over here and try to get these a little more lined up. And the larger brush you work with, I think the better off you are in terms of hitting these larger shape relationships here. It's probably too aggressive of a brush, or of a light tone, but we'll live with it for now. Eyes are always tricky. I rarely put the pupil in until I figured out the placement and the shape of the eye. And the reason for that is that the pupil it communicates so much about the character, where they're looking, their emotion. If that pupil is or iris rather, if that iris is looking, it's at the base there, obviously you get that's a crazy look, but that's a surprise. If it's too small like that, then that kind of feels like the eye is really wide open, right? Like they're wide-eyed, they're worried about something or surprised, right? If you have it looking too far up, you get the lid above it, they're like tired, they're disengaged, so like generally speaking, I avoid getting that pupil in there, or that iris in there, until the shape of everything is correct. Give me just one moment here. All right, and I'm back. I'm going to swap back over to this darker tone here. Smooth some of this out. So it's not such an extreme change. Smooth out some of these. transitions here. And we're just blending. And I think this lip can be a little less extreme. Let's actually comes up a little higher here. And I think I need to come back and do some erasing of the contour here as well. So let me merge these guys together. I'm going to come in and clean up this edge because I don't like what I've done here. It's a little bit too distracting, you know, when you're working out the forms, how the shadows fall across the form, and you're bringing it to an edge that, you know, actually shouldn't be there, you know, so that can sometimes be a distraction. Okay, let's get our relationships worked out here, where the ears, bring that a little bit smaller. Work on this form change towards the ear. Oh hey, I didn't look at the chat. Sorry about that. I haven't had a look-see. So Johnny119 says it's awesome how fast you blocked in shapes and colors. Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that. The blocking, you know, the speed I think can be managed by the size of the brush. You know, if you use a large brush and you squint and you look for the relationships, you can jump right into kind of getting the heart of the structure down. You know, we obviously had to take a little bit of a detour here to kind of come back and figure out the gesture to make sure that it felt right, you know, similar to the reference. But yeah, as far as blocking, you can be pretty quick with that. Again, just real simple tools there. Just squint, use a big brush, biggest brush that you think can fit that space that you're seeing, and then go for it. Joelle says, whose portrait are you doing? So this is, I'll pull the reference back over here. I don't know who this is. I think this is an IDF soldier, and I thought it would be challenging because of the paint on the face. you know, you don't have the same kind of reference marks for light and dark. You know, you've got to kind of work that in. So I thought that would be fun to deal with. So with a lot of this, I'm trying to figure out what the relationships are here in terms of light and dark. You know, it shifts as, of course, as it goes over the form, but it's also you know, got that face paint that really is. The whole intent of that face paint is to break up the form so that it's difficult to see. Maybe this is a lesson in finding good reference rather than very difficult reference. But you know, like I always say, you know, the whole point of doing this exercise each week for me is to do the things that interest me, and so sometimes it's the challenge that I find interesting. Like, it'd be fun to try to figure out. Okay. I don't know if we want to smooth this out or increase the amount of angularity here. I think the chin will blend that out a little more. So that's not such a hard edge. Get this line worked in, the edge of the lip there. Probably smooth this out a little bit here. They've probably been neglecting this neck portion. Be one of those things that, you know, you kind of get to the end and you go, oh yeah. Okay, whoops. Should have done something there. All right. And we're just going to do a simple plane change there. And we'll grab something for her uniform here. It's more of a drab. Down and value with that one. Again, with choosing the largest brush possible to do the job here. It's just a stroke economy, and there's a lot of benefits to that. There's speed, of course, but in addition to speed, you benefit from just the smoothness. It's an easy line for the eye to follow. And again, that, you know, we always kind of come back around to you, like that might be a style choice. Instead of getting, you know, really bogged down in the details, you're simplifying to lead the eye around. But it really is an effective method. Just looking at the chat here, Joel says, awesome how the IDF conscripts everyone, even women. Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I pulled this one up for reference a while ago. I was doing these children's books, and this series covered women of the Bible, and I wanted to kind of bring in reference that in some ways kind of modernize and humanize the whole experience. Like if you look back on these old stories, and I think it's really easy to like look at it kind of divorced from reality, from our like current day, current events. You turn on the news, or you see a video of conflicts in different places. It's you can't avoid just how human and real it all is. You can't. I mean, if you I think if you look at it sensibly, it's hard to disassociate from the reality of it. And so that's why I wanted to pull reference that was kind of hearken to our current day reality, so that as I was working on it, I was thinking about real people and real conflict, and not just this idealization or this kind of you almost give it like a fairy tale feeling if you don't do that. So I wanted to be sure to make sure that I was looking at it through the lens of like, how would I feel about this and think about this if it were today and our context. And so that was the reason for a lot of this reference. And you also get to learn about current events a little bit as well, and not just have your head in the details of the project, All right. I think that neck is way too long, so we've got to bring those relationships together. Though I do like the kind of the color play there. It's kind of bouncing in and out of these grays and warm tone and so forth. So I don't want to get too tight with it as I correct the proportion issues. Bring this a little bit more saturated, and then I think if we smooth that out a little bit, soften that edge, it'll help it read not too hard of an edge there. Hmm. I think we'll diminish that forehead a little bit there. And then have the hair kind of come down back behind, so that gives a little more dimensionality there. That you know, a little more shape to it. Let's see, maybe this lip. Match the reference here, and perhaps some of the inconsistencies in the gesture will, or the tilt of the head and so forth will come back to bite me. It does tend to be the mouth, the mouth and nose, like that relationship that figure out, each time. I feel like I spend a lot of time working those areas out. And again, you don't want to get too fussy with it and have them be really overworked, if that makes sense. I think really what needs to happen here is a lot of this needs to get blended together, but I want to make sure that I've got my shapes correct before I get into that. And this is quite a heavy kind of jawline there, so I'm not sure that is quite working for me yet. Let's see. Felt like that was like a buffering moment where please hold while Eric figures out what he did wrong with his drawing. Might flatten some of these values out a bit here. Move the light. Shift the tone there so it looks less like a mustache. And those lips are like way too pursed, like there's too much tension there, Need to be softened up. work out that plane there. All right, let me go to a new layer here. Bring in some warmth, and then I think we can come in with maybe to hit a few of the lighter points, and then I think we can do the face painting if we want to maintain that look. I'm going to shift this value over a little fleshier. And I think all of this might need to come down in value, might need to be darker. So let's do that. It might be interesting to try, shifting the color zones, or rather the light and dark from side to side. So it's not so much analytical, but it would deal more with shape than with the actual light value. And again, squinting as I'm looking at this, trying to figure out how to separate and best present graphically the image here. And so, to clarify that, that's less about observation and correct lighting and so forth. And we're just trying to figure out what would make this sing more on the page, I have not done portraits enough lately. I forget how much I really enjoyed doing them, and I don't know if maybe it's just time. I just haven't really haven't done too many portraits lately. It's all those tanks, man. Painting tanks all the time. Painting tanks, modeling tanks, marketing tanks. I'm starting to sense this is more of a theme than I really feel is conscious, one of the military themes. Always kind of been interested in military themes, but Right. I'm just going to soften this transition up so it's not such a dark. It's nice to have this like form change here, but I think that's there's too much going on there. Actually, let me bump that up a little bit. That mouth is definitely, she just has a really large chin here. So I want to be conscious of how that's, just the anatomy of that. I think it could work, but I want to make sure that it's intentional and not a accidental. Eric's going quiet again. I think this shape needs to be sorted out a little better here. Really deciding where that shadow falls. In fact, I think that whole lip kind of comes up a little bit higher. Maybe we need to just cut that back a bit. So let me group that all together, add in a mask. And I think we're gonna have to come in and out with this one. Like, bring the shape back out. I can't really decide. I think I kind of liked what I had before. this needs to get obscured a little bit there. Actually, this kind of whole section here can kind of blend in together. I think that my eyebrow's a little strong there. Actually, I'll probably do that highlight on a separate layer, or that rim light rather. Just deciding how I want to handle this. That plane change there. Kind of this fold in the skin there over the eyelid comes down like that, and then it meets the edge of the eyelid there. Again, I don't want to get too tight, too analytical with this. You know, I feel like the tighter it gets, it starts to lose. For me, it loses the magic, the appeal. You know? I don't think it. I don't know. It kind of loses some of its life when you get too analytical. All right, let's just do something a little crazy here. Bring in some of these colors here. I just feel like you get staring at something for too long, and it just starts to feel stale. And so just trying to get a different read on it, maybe. I don't know. What is this guy doing? Just throwing colors in there willy-nilly. Ridiculous. Does he even know how to art? What is this guy doing? Yeah, I think that might be interesting. It's like a overlay, or maybe even just color, hue. Go with multiply. Just gonna zoom in a little bit here. Rather back up from my drawing. So I'm a little farther away from the screen. And I'm just playing here, just so you're all aware. Don't try this at home, kids. Actually, do try this at home. Just don't trust that what I'm doing is some kind of logical outcome. I've said it a million times, but the point of these nights is to explore, experiment, try different things. And so that is precisely what I'm doing. And it can be a madhouse sometimes. can see how strengthening that light, makes the features kind of harder, a little more masculine. You kind of want to keep it soft. Again, we are just experimenting here. Okay, so now I'm just going to come in with some just direct pigment here. That's too much. I think that lip, a little too much of a hard transition there. I'm just looking at that in the reference. It looks like it turns the form a little more softly there. I think I had it too strong. This just might be, in general, just too much. Too many form changes, too many might be playing too much here for this to really work. But at this point, I'm color picking, right? So I've got, we built in all the variation. And so now we're color picking and making choices with a lot of what we laid down. So we laid all that down, so we're not working with too simple of a palette. So looking at the chat now, Snackar, it's got the monkey there, and Destroyer says, which brushes are you using? These are, actually I've just been using one brush and one eraser, and these are from my brush set, the 32 Painterly brushes, and so this one is the W head flat, and the W stands for wood. It has a wood grain texture to it, which has a nice kind of tail to it. It has a nice kind of brush feel, I think. So that's the brush that I've been using to paint everything in, and then for the eraser, we'll switch over to that. That is this, it's a chain, like a rake or a comb brush. Every time I play with the edge of this lip, it turns into like either very masculine form or just really unrealistic. You know, I'm gonna keep working on this. Welcome to another episode of Eric showcases his artistic weaknesses. The edge of the lip. Gonna have to do some study. Simplify that a little bit there. Bring in the light, maybe at the edge here. Bring in like a form change here. So that's a little more pronounced. Now I'm going to do that highlight edge that I was talking about. Too much there. Too strong. Trying to get that figured out. I want it to be a little bit wider, flare out. I might have to zoom in for that. And I'm going to shift this color hue because I don't want that to get confused with what we're doing over here. Let me zoom in. Start working on this. Get that there. Get rid of that there. And it can be rather subtle But there's a lot of information that's being transferred with these brush strokes here, and so you got to be wise about really precisely what it is that they're saying about the form. I think this needs to come down a little more. And taper off. And we'll tighten this up on the top. So I'm looking at my reference, and I thought that it flared out at the top, but it actually looks like it kind of gets a little bit wider in the middle. It's like tight, there's like a sharp point on the top here, and then gets a little bit wider, and then comes back to another sharp point. And then this kind of just trails off there. And I should zoom out sooner than later to make sure that I'm not, damaging the overall read on it too much. Just bring that over just a little bit. I think this is too strong, so I'll bring that down. And there is a little bit of that light getting caught right here. But again, whenever I did rendering that edge of the mouth there, something got funky. Oh no, what are you doing? Yeah, I think that needs to get smoothed out there again. Maybe we'll tighten this up. That might be a part of the issue, that this is not. This is more of a significant angle change than probably is actually present. And we'll round that out a little more there. Don't want to go too crazy. Dial all that back. Maybe this is why I haven't done portraits in a while. Intimidated. Alright, let's bring this, flatten this out. Nope. Not liking that flattened out. look at it. The chin's got a weird shape. Really square. Why did I do that? I think at some point I was talking about simplifying that shape there. I think I made it too much of like a wedge, you know. Okay. Let's see what we've got here. And then maybe adjust. I think that could be darkened up there. Could carry that shadow through, so we get kind of the shadow comes down, carry that up through the collar. Give that a little more dimensionality. One of the things we have going on here is that the hair and the shadow behind the neck kind of blend together, and that's not a bad thing. You know, we want to lose some edges here. It's funny, you know, when I do faces, it's usually like the next day that I have a look at it and I go, oh, okay, that's what's wrong with it. And one of the techniques that, you know, a lot of artists will use is the mirror. And so I suppose I could and should do that. So if I take the whole thing here, and we just go transform, flip horizontally. Then we have a look at it, really with fresh eyes when you're doing it like this. And actually, what I'll do, let's see if I want to swap out any of these layers that we were working with before. I almost like this one. It does some nice things in terms of bumping up some of the contrast. I don't know, do I like it more contrasty or less contrasty? Or do I want to isolate some of these colors? So if we're in here, maybe we drop out some of the brighter tones. Is it the brightness that's working or the darker areas that are working? I personally like some of the darker areas working there. Okay. All right. So I'll take all this and merge it. Merge group. I'm going to apply the layer mask. And you can see that didn't come through quite the same. Like from here to here. And that's because we had some layers there that were that are multiplying and so forth. So they're going to react to the background, but we didn't merge the background into it. So what you can do is you can control click to get the selection on this thing that we just made here. This is our character. And we can do control shift C and control V. And that is going to give us just all the pixel data from that. So it's going to kind of crunch the whole layer stack down, copy that to the selection that we had. So here's the one that we copied in, and here's the one that we had if we merge them. So if we go side by side with those, that's the difference there. Or if we go, it might be easier to see if we mirror one of them. Okay, anyway, so we've got these two layers here, and I actually like how some of that light kind of came through and the messiness of those strokes. I'm going to merge these together and make a few changes with Liquify, which, you know, I always feel like Liquify is cheating, but it's Photoshop. We're allowed to do that. So I'm going to bring the forehead down. Tighten up that chin a little bit and bring this area up so that the neck doesn't feel so long there. Check our relationships here, the ear. I don't think there's any hope for whatever I did with the mouth there. I know, still trying to figure out. I'm sure it'll hit me. I'll be having like a I'll be thinking about this tonight. Not having nightmares, but I'll be gone. What was it about that lip that bothered me so much, you know? And then I'm sure it'll hit me. Sometimes the audio is going to lag when the liquify tool is going, so I'm sorry if that is the case. Drop a plumb line down to the eye. Generally go from the pupil down. Man, I feel like I'm really messing with this too much. Liquify can be dangerous. Dangerous business. Man, it's really changing too much. I think I'm gonna actually just cancel out this. We'll see what it looks like, but I think it's, yeah, changed the characteristic too much. Almost looks like an elf or something. Something got really messed up there. Forget that. All right. Let's go back in here and try to get this. Try to clean it up manually. All right, I think the shape of this eye needs to get worked out as well. Bring down the intensity of that little bit of light there. think we might be getting a little too gray down here as well. Again, though, don't want to lose the fundamental characteristic of the character, you know. Always gotta have those few strands loose. All right, let's do that face paint. Just got it going on. And I think we'll call it there. Do we want to do it on kind of a special layer, maybe hard light or something? Okay, so I'll just come in here, kind of block in. A bunch of it. And in fact, I think we'll double click this layer, go to the blend diff, and we'll knock out the very darkest values so that it doesn't reach into the recesses so much there. Alright, then we'll get in the ballpark with a green here. We'll do this one, which kind of comes down. Actually, let's lighten that up because we're on a, is that hard light layer? And we'll go more towards green and orange, yellow there. And we'll bring that up. A little darker and do this one that comes into the eye socket here. And it comes down, kind of comes toward the nose and out, hits the edge of the cheek, and then the angle comes down a little bit like that. there's like this black paint, but it's kind of picking up a little bit of blue from the sky. So we'll bring that in, go a little more bluish. There. And we want to get that shape right. And this one goes over the eye. That cheek and down and meets with these other ones. Another one across the nose here. Okay, let me get this, get some shifts in this green here. And this one actually is green in the image. Let's get some shifts in that. Then we'll bring in some blue light. That's too much. Try to match the light in our on our base. And maybe a little bit of that into our white here. We're actually doing the opposite. We're bringing that into the more of the shadows of the white. And maybe we'll bring some light in here. Now let's go adjust our settings here. So we see how it kind of just terminates quickly there. So I liked what that was doing, but I think we could get a more softer transition so you don't notice it so abruptly. I think there's kind of two things we're balancing here. So one is, you want these soft transitions as the form changes, as the light hits the form differently. But you also want, I think we're going to want some hard edges as well to show that this is there's a pigment on top, Okay. Well, I'm not sure that this does much for us other than just gives us a little bit of variation. Alright, so I'm going to duplicate that, and we're going to come in with the eraser, which is fairly aggressive, and we'll bring it in over some of this. So it looks like it's more applied, you know, a little more haphazardly, or with a little bit of roughness to it. Maybe around the eye would be a difficult area to reach. Come around some of these forms here. Okay, and then maybe we shift some of these around a little bit. So go back to that scary liquify brush. It's not something I like to use too much, but I'm going to try to get, I mean, I can't actually see what it's doing over the form, but I want to diminish these shapes, like as they curve around her forehead, so that they get like thinner as they curve away from our view. And then same here, this section needs to kind of curve up there under her chin. And then maybe this curves up and over her nose a little more. Just a little bit. Kind of subtle there. This one goes over the lip, right? So we kind of want to adjust that one. Good. Not too much. Let's see what that did. And if we just use the smudge brush, I think we can clean this up just a little bit. Here. Okay, let's bring this one along the eye a little more. All right. Now I might want to assess whether I'm kind of getting tunnel vision with the color tones. You know, when you stare at something for a long time, you can kind of get locked into seeing those colors a certain way. So, all right, I'm gonna group all that. This is our new character group. We're gonna flip it again. Okay. Make some adjustments here. Okay, maybe erase some of these so they're not so pronounced. Let me go back to this. Here. Yeah, I might actually adjust this a little bit. The shape of that eye. Bring this up. See how that affects our layer there. Okay, then we're going to do a color balance, maybe overlay on it. I think it could use a little bit of maybe more textural paints in here. I'm doing some hue shifts, so I'm grabbing some of these values, shifting the hue over, bringing that in. And just painting that in with a really, this is a really aggressive textural brush. That's kind of what it does there. Just making some manual adjustments to the that paint layer there. Okay, there's how bring that down in value around this corner here. Bring those to kind of a tight end. Okay, let's see. This, I think we can brighten up a little bit here. I'm not sure what I think about that. Kind of seeing it in the reference, but I want to be careful about it because it really changes the gesture of the eye there. So let me go to my history here and jump back and forth. Yeah, I think it helps. I think that helps. We'll bring it in here. That curvature. Okay, we get our dark darks. So we're bringing in some dark value in here. Maybe we'll go a little lighter back here. Bring some implication of more hair there. Lighten up the hair on the edge. Okay, now let's do a color balance. And with the color balance, there's a lot going on here. We're going section by section, so we go midtones, shadows, highlights, and I typically jump back and forth between them. I'm just trying to get partly a natural look and in part a more punchy, generally more punchy image. Alright, so it's a rather subtle change, but it does change the image. Alright, so we'll go to curves. Sometimes you get a different effect whether your curve is above or below your color balance. So that's what I'm playing with there. And I might just do a hue saturation and just play with pumping up the saturation, shifting it a little bit. I think that we can leave 0. And with any of these, you can play with the mask. So we bumped up the hue saturation on that. But we can come in to this mask. Now let's just say we flip it, so we do Control Backspace, so we filled it with black, and then we've got our paint color here. And let's just do, use the Sinful Onion, which this is how that works. The harder you press, you get a nice opaque line there, but if you go lightly, you just get these little daddles, right? And so that's what we're doing here. Maybe we want to bring in some saturation just on some certain points here. We want to knock those things back. We just reverse the color. So I've actually just kind of filled the face in with saturation there. Reverse, so then once Photoshop catches up here, we'll switch to black, and then we'll start cutting it away. How we doing, Photoshop? Caught up yet? There we go. Actually can go to my eraser here and pull some of these out. And what it does is it gives a nice hue and saturation variation in there. So if I zoom in here, you can see how it's making all these little subtle changes. Alright, I think there's a couple things we can do from here. We can lighten up the eyes a little bit. So let's grab that. Let's go to back to our flat brush here. And I think we can make her look a little bit more alert by bringing in the whites of the eye, just that curvature a little bit there. This is what I was talking about earlier. There's just such an effect on the look and feel, you know, of the character, you know, the emotion in their face and stuff. Just a subtle change in the eye like that makes a huge difference. And these catch lights too, you know. We can do a little bit of adjustment here on these. I'll have to zoom out here shortly to take stock of how we're affecting the image. there's something about the gesture of this eye that I just want to make sure that I'm getting right. I've got a certain alertness, but I also don't want it to be too stiff. Might switch the angle on that curve on that paint on the nose there. Okay, grab some of this darker color, bring it in here. Here is, this step, as I see it, is mostly trying to get the colors or the values balanced so that the most important things pop out. We're not just cleaning up necessarily. I mean, there's a fair amount of cleanup here, but trying to get things to sing. I said that earlier, perhaps too prematurely. zoom out here. The thing is, though, with these shots, this photograph is most likely something really boring happening, because this person does not look excited to be here. Okay, I guess maybe we'll do some kind of light on here. Just light up all the downward facing planes, and we can of course shift this color as we see fit, but I tend to do this where I work in these some kind of light coming in from different angles, and then play with that. Alright, so now we'll go to hue adjustment. I'll lower the brightness on this. I'm going to adjust the hue until something helps the image pop. Now with the kind of warmer ochre tones there, it gives a nice kind of like dirt base. You know? It's just finding that right balance with the image. So I think somewhere in there for hue. I actually might go a little bit more saturated than that. Okay. And then same kind of thing, we can open this thing up here. Have a look at our blend if options, maybe knock out the black so that it has a more textured incorporation with the rest of the brush strokes there. Okay, and then we do the same thing, different color, top side. So if we do like a blue, all the upward facing planes. Use the smudge brush. Obviously we're getting a little bit quick and to the point with this. But what we're showing primarily is this plane change. Alright, so then we'll go hue, saturation. This one we may need to knock back before we really get into it too much, but just a little bit of blue, we're going to lighten it up. Just really where we want that blue to fall in terms of hue. there, and then we dial that back. Do the same thing. Where do we knock out the black sections? Maybe even the truest whites. We might want to, have a little back and forth between the blue and the other tones there. Another thing you can do with this is you can actually invert these, so that we can swap. We can take our black over to this side and our white to this side, and we can have it show up just in like the brightest whites and in the darkest darks. Like that. So we're just introducing a little bit into these areas here that are already kind of defined. Though I am going to go ahead, knock that back, and then we'll hit the eraser, or the mask here, and I'll erase out along that. Area of the face there, so we'll get some of it'll come through. Let's see if we want to do that, or if we want to go back to what we had before. So if we just we're just knocking out the darkest colors here and the brightest colors. A little bit of a blend. And then we'll get rid of the layer below it. Yeah, I think it works much better to do that. Just introducing a little bit of color into the dark areas. And same thing here, we can erase some of that out. And I think probably just like a rim light would make sense here. And then we'll do our overlay. And I think we can call it. A little crazy with this rim light, because that's not really using it in ways it's not really intended. Swap the color here. Darken that up where we need to. Okay, maybe we'll do a overlay. Really am getting to the end here. I don't keep saying that, but we're pushing it on time, so we gotta get this wrapped up. This is a little bit of color, a little bit of darkness that we're introducing with this. And we want to knock some of that back. Maybe actually shift over to a blue to cool it off. Have that light kind of fall uniformly. You know, so that's a so that it comes in here and you can kind of see it transition across the form. I'm pushing some areas back. Probably too much with the blue there, making that. Too gray in the skin tone. All right. So that does make some shifts there. All right. And lower the effect of that. This is a good place to zoom out because what I'm doing here is really changing the overall areas of light and shadow. So I want to make sure that I'm doing that wisely. And actually I think I will go in and do a manual edit. So we're going to do darker color. I'm going to grab this kind of purplish gray here, and I'm just going to bring it in to get that white paint there to accentuate the form a little better. Shift that a little bit more towards blue and work it this way. All right, I'm going to zoom back in. Grab my smudge tool. Okay, let's zoom out here. So what we did is we pushed that a little darker. We can adjust it as needed, but you can see the difference here when you zoom out. This reads really flat, and then turn it on, and it fills the form in a little better there. And I may even go a little bit darker with that. Here. Okay. Go. Where's our light here? We might adjust this hue saturation. Take a step back, step forward. Yeah, I do like it being more blue and less white. And I guess the last step would be to just throw something in the background here real quick. Do some kind of abstract. Okay, we'll maybe do some color adjustments on that. So that she remains the focal point, you know, on the face there, you know, not drawing too much attention to the background. Could fuss with the background for a long time, I think. Even just, you know, adjusting your base fill there can make a difference. Anyway, there's a lot that could be done there, but I think that's a decent place to stop. And usually after the video, I might come back to these, revisit them, you know, address some of these like color balance things, get the image looking much more punchy. Usually, you know, when you're looking at something for an extended period of time, your eyes adjust to the colors, and so you don't get the same effect as seeing it for the first time. So, all right, I think this is a decent place to stop right here, and I'll zoom in on some of these features here. Something like that. You can see some of the brushwork in there, and a lot of texture still, you know, in here, even though it's a digital piece. All right. Well, that is it for tonight. Thank you for following along. I hope that you enjoyed it, that you learned something. And if you had a project of your own that you were painting, that you made some good progress on that. All right, that's it for tonight. Have a good night.